how do you give parenting wisdom to your adult children regarding their children without causing conflict?
Oh, I'm going to leave that to you.
That's from Gail.
Well,
Ask
okay,
her
first,
again.
Yeah, say it again.
Ask
Well,
her
first of
again.
all, but say it again. Say it again.
So, how do you give parenting wisdom to your adult children regarding their children without causing conflict? So, like, how would you give wisdom to her regarding Genesis and Christina without causing conflict with her as well?
And I want you to speak about how I give wisdom to you that prevents conflict based upon your children. Don't just think you're answering something like you an expert.
No, I am an expert. What y'all
Let's
thought?
go.
That's why I don't talk a lot, because I'm an expert at this. Okay. But I would say how to give advice to your adult children.
How my mommy give advice.
Well, how my mother give advice, and how I see it.
You want her to answer it, you
Yeah,
answer
thank
it.
you.
Dang.
See, I'm the expert.
Go ahead on.
Okay. But how to give it is more so talk. I told somebody, talk to your child. First of all, don't view your daughter as a daughter. Your daughter is an adult. And talk to them how you want somebody to talk to them yourself. But then also give them one thing I suspect from my mother, which she can give her opinion.
Don't see if
One
you're going
thing
to
I
tell
suspect from her is she talks to me that's unconflict in a way of what she has learned, but then also how she would have wanted maybe her mother to talk to her.
Correct.
If that answers the question a little bit. Because which now the way she talks to me, my mother does not talk at me, she talks to me. And she gives me life situations that helps me when I can talk to my 14-year-old that is getting ready to go through life. Well, I can actually now talk to her and not talk at her and stuff like that. I can make it where we can have a communication, an open communication,
Right.
but I can still stand my ground
Right.
with her.
Correct. And let me just say this to who asked the question?
Gail.
Yeah.
With you? Oh. But to her, as well as all parents that this question may be applicable for, I relate to not only you all, but people the way that I think. I think the way you think is very, very important. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think of you more so as a mother than I think of you more so as a woman who is developing. And as the woman develops, not just physically, but knowing the arresting issues that are there that is trying to prevent the woman from fully developing, I relate to you from that aspect. So now you have the right to say, to come to me based upon your daughter, because you can see the conflict that you are about to encounter. So when you come to me, you're not more so coming to me about the problem or the situation, but you're coming to me of how you handled it. And the key word of it is coming to me. If you don't come to me, I really ain't gonna say too much of nothing, because whatever it is, you have to go through that experience. And I think a lot of us, because we are your mother and because we do have the wisdom and seeing what make it go down the pipe out of our own fear, we try to prevent it. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm not in the prevention mode.
And one thing I can
Or
say
intervention mode.
Yeah, and one thing I can
You know
say
what I'm
about
saying?
you is that, and noticing from a lot of mothers, you're not overbearing nor overstepping.
No.
Like, you allow me to be a parent. You allow me to be a woman that is a mother of a daughter. Like, you don't, and that's what I mean, you talk to me, you talk with me, you don't talk at me. You don't just go in and be like, you know what, I got it. You know what I'm saying? Take over.
But because like I said, it goes by how you think.
Well, yeah.
Because how I think is how I respond and how I react or behave to things. So there's no way in the hell I will ever be convinced that because you had Genesis at 20 years old, that you were a full 20-year-old ready to be a mother. So you were emotionally arrested like you were 10, but you had the number to be able to take care of her by yourself. That means you could stay at home by her with her, like a babysitter, at 20. But I recognize that you are growing as a child with a child.
And that's why I say with Genesis.
And I could not let that fear come in, but I had to keep myself positioned with you in honor of you now being a mother, but keeping it where it's non-conflict so you can have the space to come to me because you scared yourself. And the conflict can come if I'm trying to be overbearing.
Yeah.
And I remember that happened, with Genesis' father. You know what I'm saying? Because, out of his damaged places, when she was just newborn, he wanted to come take her out of the house. He wanted to come do this, he couldn't do that. So I wasn't trying to overstep my boundaries with him as a parent, but you were living in my house.
Yeah.
And I know daggone well he wasn't finna take a newborn out of the house. Does it make sense? But he said, Miss Fuller, or Miss Collins, because that was my name at that time, he said, no disrespect, he said, but I didn't F you, I F'd your daughter. And I had to sit back. And I said, this Negro spoke truth. Now, it could have created conflict, but truth never creates conflict. I said, this nigga spoke truth. So I stepped out of the way and I let you handle the Negro that you F'd.
And it's crazy because that's why even with Genesis.
As opposed to most folks would have went the hell off.
But yeah, whereas Genesis,
And I could have.
But she didn't. And that's one thing, even me and my mother talk about it now. With Genesis, it was like I grew up with her, but I was still able to raise her. So now here come Christina, and his mother is very overbearing and controlling. And he call my mama, call my mama. And I said the same thing to him and his mother, I didn't F you, I F'd your son.
Correct.
And your son needs to take responsibility.
And now I'm in a place where I can teach you as a woman how to handle an overbearing woman.
Yeah. Or a woman,
little girl who looks like a mother, So that's how I avoid conflict, and I hope that they got something out of that. And I'm waiting on the next round when Ariel have her sons of how I can avoid conflict as a parent.
Not happening. But I will say in closing, because I made this a long response, so shout out to you, Gil. I think you pretty much stepped back though, because at the end of the day, those are her children. And what you don't do, you gonna reap the shit out of that, not her.
That's right.
So at the end of the day, I think I'll always hear you say, if you don't discipline her now, you gonna hear the consequence of it. And I think that at the end of the day, those are still your children. So if she was to leave this earth tomorrow, you're gonna reap everything that you have sown within your children and how you develop them. And that's gonna be between you and God at that point. And I think that to me, that's always the biggest thing of how I feel like you avoid conflict. Cause it's at the end of the day, I done did my part with mine.
And that is going back to how you think.
Yeah.
Because I'm like Christ. I want to be like Christ. My goal is to be like Christ. And what he did with his students, which was his disciples, he prepared them for his departure. And raising you all, I have always put myself in a position to prepare you for my departure. And I think if we do that as parents, it will avoid conflict as opposed to preparing you for my stay when I'm not going to always be. Even if I'm not dead, I'm not going to always be. Because after I raised you all, it's time for me to live. And I'm not going to overcompensate to try to do it again by smothering you or trying to shield you. Those are you and your children, and you got to experience what you experience. And when you need me, call me. Call me. Okay? There you go.